or before.
Yeah, pre that event. So then I'll ask you to share a little bit about yourself personally and the numerous hats that you wear, and I know you do a lot, so you can kind of touch on all those, and then I'll say like we'll probably
maybe
be highlighting today.
Keep it like brief.
An hour.
Okay. Because I can get wordy, and I can also really edit down. So depending on our needs. Okay.
Yeah, you can go as big or as wide. I'll come back and say, okay, we're really honing this down to divine sweat for our discussion today.
Okay.
Out of all of these hats. And then tell me a little bit about that journey. Right? And then some questions, topics that you would like us to talk about. Okay, I like that. Yeah, that inspires you, challenges you, motherhood, and how I call it. Yeah, I love the motherhood and how you balance that in business. Ooh, I'm excited too. Okay, like into the fashion industry, yes. Health and wellness industry. Yeah, I know. I do. I love all that you do, which is, it's like.
We're already live?
No.
I'm like.
We shouldn't be. The microphone's all turned off.
I talk with my hands so much. That's why I created Divine Sweat, so I had a safe space to move my hands.
All right. Our microphones are
Where are these cameras coming from? Right there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. So he's got both of those, and Henry will be toggling them both out for us. And yeah, we're showing live. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started and kicked off. I usually like to share this out, so if I have any folks that want to begin to join us, they can see that we're live and hop on and get involved into our broadcast today.
I wish I'd found their Facebook page. I didn't.
KUHS Denver. Yeah. So we are live on KUHS Denver. I am your host, Juliette Abdel, and our segment for today, of course, every Friday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time is Health and Wealth with the Self-Care Boss, aka me. I either love to share with you something that you can commiserate with me and misery about, or share with you something that's positive. And I just want to share positive today because this has been a crazy busy week. And I don't know what I did here. I feel like I messed this up. Anyways, it's been a crazy busy week, and it's all really good stuff. And whenever you get like the right people at the right time, and just like everything comes together, you can actually start doing projects that you've had on the back burner. Yeah, it's like one of those moments for me. So it's been nice. It's 6.5 years, like professionally, that I've been doing what I've been doing with the chamber here in Colorado. And now it's like everyone that I've been waiting for has shown up.
Divine timing.
It is divine timing, which is such a great segue to our topic for today. So I'm very excited to have with me my guest, and my guest is Selwa Owens. And I've initially met Selwa digitally or virtually through Instagram, and then I had the unique opportunity to walk in her fierce fashion show that she had in Denver. But Selwa does a lot of things, and I don't know how she fits it in, so I will have her share a little bit about what she does.
Wow. Yeah. Are we going for it? We're going for it. Okay, what do I do?
Yes.
Well, I do a few things. They all fall under the umbrella of self-expression in one form or another. I'm a fashion designer. That's how I originally launched my business, and that was like the main platform for a while. I just love fashion. I love how it empowers people, and it's an expression. And I launched that as I was, having kids. So I was like a stay-at-home mom trying to launch her fashion business, and I was doing it the best way I knew how, when kids were napping or when they were sleeping, and little by little. So I didn't have this big amazing launch with like a business plan, investors, resources. My business plan was like, don't die while you do it. Like maybe sleep a little, find time to eat, and just like do what you can with very little. So I made it work. My business, because of the way it started and because of what I had to work with, really taught me how to be resilient, how to be very faith-based, really like lead with my vision and not sweat, not seeing it in my eyes, how is this going to play out? But just to really like lead with passion.
Yeah.
So throughout the years, I realized, okay, people that are following me for my fashion business are actually more attracted to the story I'm sharing, the how, the like trips to the post office with my strapped on baby here and my stroller and like the actual like authenticity of building a brand when it's not a cookie cutter start.
Yes.
So that really inspired me to do more. So I started blogging more. I wanted to, more than anything, inspire. Like, sell clothing because like that, I guess that's how I stay in business. But I was more into inspiring, especially women, to not succumb to like, I can't do that because I'm doing this. Well, how about you can do that and this?
Yeah.
And one of them might look a little wonky for a while, but through it you're going to find you're fierce. So
Yes.
eventually, I would say a couple years, maybe two, I decided to produce the first Fierce in the City, which is the show that you walked in last year, and you did amazing.
Oh,
and I was just like, I'm going to produce my own fashion show because there's a lot of shows around, yes, but none of them I have found really connect purpose
yes.
and fashion. Like, fashion's just an instrument. I want to inspire people. I want to give back to the community. So I went for it. I produced Fierce in the City in 2014, and that opened up a whole new world of events. I realized I'm kind of really good at putting on events because I can go with little sleep and I like doing a lot at once.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also love dance. So I created, at the time it was Fierce Fitness, which has now evolved to be Divine Sweat. And it was like a cardio dance workout because women need to be confident. I don't want to sell clothing to a woman when I know that what she needs is not a fashion piece. She needs self-confidence. She needs to love her body. And I can help her because I have a dance background. I love to work out. So I created that. So eventually, we'll fast forward to 2023? I don't even know anymore.
Yeah.
Now the pillars of my brand are soul, beauty, movement. I'm very much into spirituality and the bigger why. And beauty, that can be fashion, or that can be just yourself, working on yourself. So like
Yes.
self-empowerment, how you show up, loving yourself, and movement. That's like Divine Sweat. It's,
Okay.
dance and all of it, tone it from the soul up. So now, and yeah, I still have my kids, and they've gotten to be a part of the process. And I would not change a thing because through we'll call it the beautiful mess,
Yeah.
I learned so many of the tools that I now get to share with people, even
Right.
through if it's like one-on-one coaching, or if it's just how I show up to events or shoots, and I bring the tribe, and they're like, oh, you can do that. I'm like, yeah, so can you.
Yeah.
So all of it has been a part of it.
That is such an inspirational story, and I love that you are so transparent in explaining where you were and how you began. One of the things that I have heard repeatedly in your talking points were your adaptability and your ability to continue to pivot with the times. And I even saw this post the fashion show, and you had posted and you said this was your last time that you were doing the Fierce in the City fashion show, but that you had felt like it had reached its goal and the purpose was filled around that, and then you pivoted to the next thing.
Yeah.
I think that's so that's been wise, and it's obviously proven successful because you've been around for over a decade now since when you first began.
I know. I started when I was 10, and now I'm 20. It's
Right.
so weird. Like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Where did the time fly?
Yeah. Yeah, no, with that one being the last event, I mean, that was huge. I received the knowing 2 weeks before the show, and I felt like I needed to share it so that
Yes.
nobody would read into it the wrong way after. Like, I know it's going to be a killer show. I know it's going to be amazing. I'm going to share that I received this knowing so I can hold myself accountable to this and take the next leap of faith, which I'm still unfolding.
Yes.
And it's awesome to be able to share that with people. Everyone's like, well, so what's next? I'm like, well, stay tuned
Right.
as I'm doing. I'll let you know.
Keep following along and we'll figure it out together.
Yeah, and it's not like it's anything, one thing's going to replace that. It's just making space. It's so important that we continue to give ourselves space and permission to grow and evolve and do new things and show up in ways that people don't necessarily expect of us.
Well, and I think as women too, you send a powerful message with this because women are notorious for continuing to take on things and not letting go of other things. I mean, you just keep on doing more without letting go of the rest. So the ability to stop something that you've kind of harbored and grown on your own takes a lot.
Yeah, and it's it's completion.
Yeah.
So it's really less about stopping, more about completing.
Yeah.
And yeah, women do tend to overcommit, and we look at commitment is success, but actually the only commitment you really need to do is that with you and your higher self and wherever that leads you. So if I was to commit to this one venture of many, I would actually not be honoring the true commitment of why I'm here.
Right. Yeah, I love that. So there are a lot of things that I want to ask you. I'm trying to condense them all into these thoughts, right? So the first one being, and you briefly alluded to this when you shared that you were, there's a lot of out there that gives you the assumption that you only have to be in one lane, right? Like you can only be a mother, you can only be a career woman, you can't be this and that. And I loved that example of you can do this and that. And through your storytelling, you're inspiring other people. But what inspires you to continue to do that and continue to be a voice for others to look to.
Yeah, so what inspires me, gosh, so much inspires me. I literally go to bed at night sometimes and I can't sleep because I'm so inspired. And I know that sounds so like crazy, like I have inspired insomnia, but I really do, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm so blessed. I get to do this, and I'm going to do this. So I'm really inspired to show people that we're here to be multifaceted, and we're here to rebirth ourselves like time and time again. And so I feel like having built a platform through something as relatable as fashion. I mean, everybody wears clothes, so that I feel like was a gift that, and, I happen to be good at it, and now I understand it's a gift of connection. It's just another way I can connect with people, and then to show like, okay, you can do that. Like 1 minute, I look very like Bravo TV-ish. The next time, like Gaia Network, like shamany. I'm like, whoa, this is all me, but it's all like authentic expressions of me, and I feel like me showing up in them is giving other people permission to do the same. And your audience will evolve as you do, so you might lose some to then win the ones that are more frequency aligned. And so I'm just inspired to continue to watch the journey.
Yeah.
I don't ever have like a moment of like, I'm bored, what's next? I literally have moments of like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's the next step.
Right.
Let's do it. Wait, how do we do it? I don't know. Let's go.
Yeah, let's figure it out and go into it.
Yeah, so I would say like the ongoing journey of ascension and evolving and just showing up for other people to want to join that movement is what inspires me.
Right, and being open to the opportunities that are out there, right? Like and figuring it out along the way. So being multifaceted also requires your time and energy and dedication. And how do you balance being a mom and doing all of these and answering your calling and seeing these? I'm sure you're pulled in so many different directions. So what does balance look like? Or define that
so balance is a big picture perspective. I don't recommend anybody, especially moms, to look at their day and judge if it was balanced, because some days are so not balanced. Some days I was like diving into this project because that's the next on the like priority deadline, and my kids were like having to fend for themselves, and I already know I'm going to make it up to them like in the weekend or whenever I can. So I look at balance as like an overall thing. So you kind of have to step back, look at your life, and then I ask myself the $1 million question: will this matter in 5 years? So if I'm going to stress out because there's a pan in the sink with crusty, dusty like eggs that my kids decided to make that morning, and I can't get to it, or they're running out of clothes, it's laundry time, or I need to go to the dentist, I'm like 6 months late for my cleaning, and I'm like, I have crest whitening strips, I'll be fine. It's like, I step back, big picture, and will this matter in 5 years? Because sometimes you really just have to prioritize that big picture and trust that the little things are going to fall into place.
Yeah. And I'm sure along the way you run into challenges, right? Like we're all prone to those. What are some of those challenges that you faced? And
oh my gosh,
how have you highlight a couple that you feel are, and I'm sure you approach things like challenges for you are just like a way for you to get stronger. Like that's how I feel like you as a woman would take that. Like and so like what are some of those challenging moments that have actually positioned you to
well, how deep do you want to get, Julia? Like, how do you want, like, oh my gosh, I had trouble finding that address that day, or do you want to go deep? I mean, okay, challenges.
Just below the surface.
I love the act of transcending a challenge. And that doesn't just mean to me, like, overcoming it. It means, like, really gathering the wisdom and the tools so that I can apply it to the next. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, are my guides just sending me more challenges because they think that's like how I grow and learn? Like, well, pretty much. But okay, one of the biggest ones really was starting my business, having no time. I mean, I literally had, at one point I remember like nursing a baby and sewing on my sewing machine and being like, this can't be safe. Like, this is probably not, the poster child of how to start a fashion business, and having, being pulled in many directions. And at the time, I was married, and I had we'll call it, not as supportive as could have been spouse.
Okay.
So I had the challenge of having little ones pulling me in every direction and having a partner that questioned my every move. And so I constantly felt like I was having to prove myself, and while I was just trying to get something off the ground with nothing. So what I realized was that, okay, I have the blessing of living with my biggest critic. How awesome is that? Because you know they're out there.
Right.
And the more you grow, the more you put yourself out there on social and on stages and whatnot, for every like 3 people that are gonna love you, one's gonna like not love you, not get you, and do whatever they can to make others not do this. I mean, it's just life.
It's natural.
So I thought, okay, this is school of life.
Yeah.
So I leaned into the journey of living with my critic, and I enjoyed watching him watch some of my moves, being like, how the hell is she pulling that one off? And like going into mass production in LA. I went on a business trip just to scope it out, just to talk to manufacturers, knowing that I did not have the financial means to go into mass production, but I thought I would do an act of faith and go do it. And I met one, and I don't know what it was about me that they liked, and they're like, we would love to do a partnership. Let's produce your collection and do it as a joint venture. I'm like, oh my God. So I came home, and I was like, I'm going to be getting my mass-produced collection shipped in next couple weeks, and it was like the joy of being able to share that and know that it was not expected of me is great. So sometimes, fans, supporters, everyone having your back is great, but when someone doesn't expect anything from you other than for you to fail and you get to show up, it's pretty amazing. So, leaned into that, but that was a challenge for a while. I would say
a big challenge. That's an internal environment that you can't escape, right? Like it's a constant that's there for you.
It's a constant. There can be hurtful moments because you're like, if you fall into expectations, but then I was reminded, well, you're not into traditional expectations, right? I'm like, no, I guess I'm not. So I guess I signed up for this. So that was a challenge. I would say like a lot of entrepreneurs, there's been moments of financial challenges where to take the next step takes more investment and having to be really resourceful with money. And I'm pretty good at being resourceful, I will say. I had to learn that early on. And another big challenge in my life that's shaped who I am is having a stillbirth. I was 8 months along. I have 3 kids, but I always say I have 4. And I lost that baby, and after that loss, I started a women's support group called Mommies of Angels. And looking back, I'm like, that was when I really stepped into my role as a healer, which is like the most important role that I have. That kind of gave me permission to step up and show up for other women and help them heal their pain and just build community. And so now I look back, I'm like, all my kids have impacted me, including Jemariah, that was his name, because that was the moment where I was like, okay, I am here to help others heal. So it's beautiful.
It is absolutely beautiful, and it's cathartic when you are in those groups and you can share that space with other women that have experienced something so deep. That connects you in a way that no other life event would. Right?
And I think just the knowing of what it feels like to have your heart like just shattered. I had a very beautiful childhood, I would say, like my upbringing. I mean, I didn't have a lot of struggle. I was very blessed. I was an awkward kid. I wasn't like super popular, and my name was Salwa, so of course I had to explain it to everybody. But no big like things. So that was my first moment of like, oh my God, so this is what it feels like for your heart to be just broken, to have like no idea why you're still here. So that knowing has really helped me in connecting with people now, and instead of like being like, oh, I don't know what to say, now I know a little bit more about how to have that compassion, being there for others that are at their lowest.
Absolutely. Wow, I had no idea. So thank you for openly sharing that.
Of course.
And I feel like I can piggyback off of that even some more. But I'd
Please.
like to, and one of the things that you shared is, which resonated just a minute ago, is that there's a degree of risk that you took and a degree of trust. You had the faith and foresight in yourself and in everything else that's guiding you to just trust the process of where it would unfold. Taking that first step and going to LA, not knowing that you probably can't make this happen, but you could also, right? Like just going with your gut. And I think so many entrepreneurs have to do that step, have to take that initial step of, well, it doesn't make sense to anyone else, but it does to me, so let me go do that.
A ton of that. I mean, even just Fierce in the City, like making that the last one, and stepping into newness, and even launching Divine Sweat. It's like a lot of my business moves have been answering a higher knowing, and I don't necessarily have time to bring everybody up to speed. Yeah. I was like, this is what I'm doing. Humanity will catch up.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
just follow along.
And you have to take risks, because if there was a right way to do everything and everybody followed that, we would be so boring. Yeah. Everybody would be doing the same thing. Everybody's story would be the same. So, no, definitely answer that nudge. Like, that intuitive nudge is everything.
Yeah, it creates that uniqueness and creativity all around, for sure. One more question around fashion, and then I'd love to hear more about kind of what's coming up on the horizon, more about what Divine Sweat is. But the fashion industry is huge, right?
Yeah.
In Colorado, I feel like we're slowly moving.
There's like a community. Right? I would call it more of a community.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is your take personally on the fashion industry?
So I'll be honest, I've had love-hate moments with it.
Okay.
Especially now that I'm in my spiritual work and in my fashion work. I was just having this conversation the other night. So I will open even my social media accounts, and it's funny how I get both worlds, right? So, and it drives me nuts sometimes to see just a mindless fashion post of ridiculousness and all the engagement, and it's about like shoes, right? Or some, and then to see like a really awakened divine being sharing so much wisdom and knowledge, and like crickets. I really don't like seeing that disparity. So there's a part of me that's like, I just want to leave this industry and just go support.
Right.
But then, you know, I check in with my guides and I meditate and I just sit quietly, and it's like, well, if I left an industry where I was planted to bring light to, then I would not be honoring any of my work here.
Right.
So I think that it's getting better. More brands are trying to infuse their purpose to their brand, but there's a lot of there is some unhealthiness in the industry, and it's also killing our planet. So I think it's time to rethink how we produce, and I've done that myself. I no longer mass produce, and whatever I make is a little more mindfully sourced, because we have an obligation to save our planet. So I think fashion is coming a long way. There's so many different avenues. There's different people doing it differently. For me personally, I have almost left the fashion industry 3 times. One time I just donated all my inventory. I was like, oh, I'm done. And the next day I was like, no way, I'm not done. The second time it was, during COVID, and I realized I don't have to leave. I just do it differently.
Yes, yeah.
And then the third time was a little quicker. I snapped back out. So I realized, okay, yeah, I'm never really going to leave fashion. I'm just going to kind of bring the way I do it into evolution with myself.
Right. And that speaks to your resiliency in all of this, right? Like your determination to continue to bring some change, even if it is on a smaller scale with yourself, because it all starts with that one person, right? And that's a big message for others too, is I often see the discouragement, right? Like you're in the room and you're the only person that looks like that, or you're in the room with the only knowledge of this, and leaving the room means that voice has left the room. So you're contributing more when you're present and you're trying to bring the change than when you walk out on that.
Absolutely, completely agree. And sometimes you feel like you're like, will my impact be enough? And it's an impact. Impact is impact. Don't judge it.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. So right now you're launching Divine Sweat. And this is your new or kind of adapted phase. So let's talk about this a little bit more.
Sure. Okay, so I mentioned that I had been doing Fierce Fitness, and that was like a cardio dance program that I developed because I love to dance. And then COVID hit, and during COVID, when you couldn't teach in-person classes, it really gifted me time to sit with, okay, is this it? Is this fully aligned? Because I have really come a long way in my spiritual path, and so it no longer felt complete. So that was amazing. Then I got back from COVID, and I could use the studio again and teach again. But I'm like, oh, I know this feels right. I'm gonna sit and see what wants to be birthed. And then I broke my foot, and I was like, okay, why are they messing with me? By they I mean like the universe, my guides, whatever. What is the test here? I broke my foot, and a couple weeks later I had to have foot surgery, and I was just desperate to be able to even walk again is the worst feeling, to just be like bedbound.
Right.
For someone as active as me, and with my kids, it was summer. I'm like, guys, I guess we're just gonna like roll to the pool because I had a little scooter.
Yeah.
We rolled all over the place. But I realized, it took me a minute. I'm like, okay, I know why this happened. And ironically enough, yes, I just posted about this. I was running away from a snake when I broke my foot. And you know, the whole spiritual meaning of a snake is like it sheds its old skin, it births new life force energy. And I already knew where I was taking the dancing, and I was going to infuse it with my spiritual work, but I didn't know if it was like an appropriate time to do it. I don't know what I was waiting for. And I think that foot break and the surgery and the healing was that like, girl, stop wasting time.
Right.
Nothing's guaranteed. You know, just go. And so I launched, you know, I started doing some workshops. It's mostly at like spiritual retreats, and then I did a large summit in Palm Springs, and I realized, okay, this is like its own thing. I mean, like it deserves its own name, its own energy, build it to scale.
Yeah.
Eventually, you know, other people can be involved. So that's when the name came to me, build the website, and Divine Sweat, yeah, tone up from the soul up. I want it to be, it's like your workout, your therapy, and your church all in one.
I love that. Yeah.
That's pretty much like
Saves
what we're
you the
doing.
time
Yeah. So the next workshop is coming up here in Denver on Saturday at 3:15, and yeah, anybody can learn about it. Go to my Instagram profile, visit my links, or go to Divine Sweat on Instagram as well. But yeah, this is kind of taking a life of its own. I already have plans for taking it around the country, and
oh, fun. Oh,
yeah, because
I
it's a movement, and I know that it needs to be out there.
Yeah.
I got to see firsthand just like how it's transformed the women that have come to the workshops, and I noticed how much I'm putting a lot of my work, like that type of work, and like intuitive coaching and whatnot, like I keep it under the table, and I'm like, okay, it's time to bring all this up. This is all part of the same umbrella. It's all part of like the salwiness.
Yes.
So, bring it out.
The salwiness.
The
you
salwiness.
Just
Yeah, I'm
love
really just bringing it here. It's not even mine, so let's just bring it out.
That's awesome. This bleeds into the health and wellness industry somewhat, and so I'm sure you have your own perspective on that industry as well.
Yes, absolutely do. I have more, okay, health and wellness to me, everything starts with your overall, like your mind, body, soul being in alignment. I think when you have medical issues, something's clearly off with your energetic body, your emotional, mentally, like something's off. So I'm big into energy work. That's where my medicine is dance. I'm not saying that I won't take like medicine if I need it, if I'm like dying. I'm not saying, you know, I didn't do epidurals when I had babies. I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone. I'm just saying that first step is checking in with that body, that oneness, which is not just physical, it's like interior. Your body just talks to you. And so my way of bringing the Divine Sweat is offering my type of medicine. Granted, everybody has their own. If somebody's really into, I mean, golf can be your medicine. I don't know why golf just came to me. Maybe we have some golf listeners. I don't know. But like, if that's where you can go and just disconnect and feed your soul, then that can be your medicine. I think that sometimes we're too quick to go get a medical diagnosis before checking in with oneself and understanding like that disparity of, I'm well here, but I'm not well here. You're out of alignment, and just like a car out of alignment is not going to drive well. Your body's not going to drive well.
You've got to fix that first before you hit the road, and that was a perfect analogy and a perfect touch point on spiritual self-care is how you're really capturing it, right? Like finding the things that feed your soul internally through hobbies and through activities. For you, that's dance. For someone, it could be golf. You know,
I don't even play golf.
You know,
I did putt-putt once.
Maybe the driving of the beverage cart on the golf course, something. Whatever it is that brings you that internal peace and contributes to kind of reducing the internal destruction that's ultimately kind of happening, right? Like,
and the harmony. Like our harmony and our energy flow, like we can block it with this stuff. So I think it's important. I think there's way too much. I know we're on social media right now, so I don't want to bash social media because like we're also like, hey, watch us. But I think taking everything, discerning who you watch.
Yes.
There's a lot of unhealthy comparison. There's a lot of quick fixes being sold for everything, and just discerning, does this really nourish my health, my wellness, or does this make me feel like I have so much to go that I just don't even want to try?
Yeah.
So, yeah, discerning what's in front of you and changing things up. I even like with my workouts. I love my dancing, but I am at the gym doing all sorts of stuff, and I love to confuse my body. I love when my body thinks it's got a workout figured out. I'm like, okay, now we're gonna do this.
So change it up.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll slow it down. I'm like, well, now we're gonna do like the old lady yoga class because I want to see like how can I do this class and make it me and get something out of it. I don't know. I like the challenge,
it's still a challenge to
of
go
throwing
back
myself off and just doing new things.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Well, we're on KUHS Denver, streaming live, have Selwa Owens with us, and she is sharing, and this is why, I decided to ask you to come on here. Honestly, the brand and the segment is health and wealth. So generally, they have a guest that focuses on health and wellness, really around the self-care principles, or around wealth and generating that, being an entrepreneur. And you are crossing over back and forth on both, which is so beautiful because of the work that you're doing personally and professionally. One of the brands that you also wear is kind of, or the labels that I would say, is being an intuitive creator. So let's define that to our listeners.
Yes. Being an intuitive creator is really listening to your intuition. A lot of people don't even know they're intuitive because their mind is so busy that they don't allow it. I'll rewind a little bit to my childhood. I was a little bit strange kid, and in my room, I would chat with Yeshua, Jesus, they call him. I met him as Yeshua, and then I went to Catholic school, and then I drew them a picture like, oh, that's Jesus. I'm like, no, it's Yeshua, but nice try. And we would just chat it up, and then I would just like connect with, I don't know, my guy, these voices, right? And then like preteen years came, and all this busyness came, and it wasn't until I chatted with an intuitive coach myself that she's like, you're already connecting and chatting with your guys yourself. Right? I'm like, oh, is that who that is? I thought it was just like me like losing my marbles because like I'm just doing so much and I can't get quiet time. And so then I started to trust it. So I think I look at humanity as a whole now and how much stimulation gets shoved in everybody's face.
Oh my goodness.
So much that we can't even like look at a post and fully read a caption. I mean, everybody's just like go, 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 receive, but like not fully receive any experience really. You just like stimulation, dopamine, next. And so I think that is the scariest thing to me, to watch that trend, because we need to get back in touch with that intuition, and that requires that being still enough to hear your own thoughts and know that they're yours but coming from a higher place. So I legitimately I will record my own channeled messages. I'll just voice memo and I'll just start chatting and talking, and when I receive, I'll call it an assignment or a vision or a mission, then I know that's what's next, or like, that don't do that one, Salwa, that one's no longer worth your time, or that one no longer serves, then I don't. So I guess you could say it's like having a business mentor that you can't see, that is kind of you, but in a different realm, that knows better.
Yeah. And how would someone try and begin that process of connecting with their own intuition?
A really good way to do it for people that are like wanting to is intuitive writing. And that is you writing to you. So say like, Juliet, you're gonna go home, your higher self is gonna write you a letter, and your topic question can be like, what should I focus on next to break through or whatever? And then just start writing and see what comes to you, and don't get in your own way. Also, an easy one is looking for signs. I know it sounds cheesy, but I mean, there was a time where I really wasn't sure if I was losing my head, so I was like, okay, if this is real, I'm gonna see like 2 sevens somewhere, and then I would, or someone's gonna text me at this time. Like, ask for signs, you will receive them. Maybe you won't, and maybe that's just not your time, or maybe you're like still too much in your head. And then I really do believe that having a moment of prayer, meditation, whatever it is that you connect to, whoever you connect to, where you're in your heart space versus your head, will start to really get that channel going. It's like a radio station. You have to tune it in, or you're gonna get a lot of static, and then you're gonna be like, did I hear correctly, or is that like, it's a practice.
It out, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Back to Divine Sweat, if that's okay. I know I keep popping back.
That is not okay.
I'm over here like, this is intriguing, and this, and I'm just like, all over the place, and I appreciate you running with me.
Oh my God, I love it.
So Divine Sweat, you shared that how you are heavy into cardio and dance. So is that for beginners that are not necessarily on the same level as you, or?
Oh, it's for everybody. You don't need to have dance experience. You don't need to have you don't need to be in any certain shape. I've taught women of all shapes and sizes, and the dancing is not. It's definitely not intricate. Listen, I danced. I've been in competitive dance team. I did the whole performing and always smiling and stage makeup and all of that. And this is the opposite of that. This is make it ugly. Feel the moves. Don't judge the moves. And I keep it it's simple because it's less about, we're not performing or trying to impress anybody. It's more about the intentionality behind the movement. So I kick it off with a drop-in meditation so everybody connects with the energy that they're moving. So it's very intentional. And then I slowly build it up, and you get that heart rate up, and then you have some free ecstatic dance moments where you can do, if you want to just jump around like a monkey, that's what your soul's feeling, then you do it. I definitely think that there's no right or wrong way to show up.
Yeah.
The only wrong way is to not show up because you are afraid that you have to be in shape. One of my pet peeves is when women are like, I need to get in shape to come to your class. I'm like, no, you just need to where are you going to go?
Right.
Yeah, because it's less about that. We're not performing. I had to do it took a little rewiring for me to know that it's okay to create, not thinking of technical or looks, how the movements are none of that matters.
Right.
And it's such a liberating thing.
Which I'm sure took a while because, as the more that we do something, especially professionally, competing and everything like that, you start judging that in your own, right? Like you attend an event and you're like, oh my gosh, I would do it like this.
Yeah.
Like this.
I mean, in high school team, I was the captain of my dance team there, and it was my job, where I had two main jobs besides leading dance and choreographing. One, well, this is funny, to make sure that the girls, nobody was wearing underwear under their leotard. Don't ask me. That was the weirdest job I've ever had.
That it was the job.
Yeah, all I had to do was raise their leotards. I didn't see anything, but I'm like, okay, I have to do underwear check. I don't do that at Divine Sweat. Don't worry, please wear underwear. I prefer that you do. And two, I had to blow the whistle if anybody was not smiling or call them out.
Okay.
You had to smile. And now I look at it, I'm like, how ridiculous, because if you're really moving energy and you're feeling things, they're not always going to be happy.
No.
All emotions serve. Yeah, sometimes and I've had women start crying. Oh my God, I love making people cry. It's not even
I get that.
Yeah, because that means that they're touched at a level that is just profound, and that's when I know this is working.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think how funny. We couldn't wear underwear and we had to smile. We don't do that. Now I'm please don't feel like it's a smile. I don't care what you do. You can look like you're pissed because maybe you're moving energy of a very frustrating experience. You can cry. Just come as you are. It's like dance church.
So well said, right? So well said about the emotion and the energy flowing through, because that's what emotion is. It's energy that's passing out of your body, and however you reflect that can be through whatever facial expression.
Yeah, I mean, think about
emotion.
Birth. We push these little babies out, and they come out looking like sad raisins, and it's the happiest day of our life. Yeah, they're all smushed, and they're crying, like they don't want to be here, and we're like, ah. Can you imagine if we're waiting, no, you have to come out smiling. It's just the most beautiful miracle. Birth is kind of messy.
Yeah, that's totally true. That's so funny as well. So this is your first official kickoff. Do you plan on having numerous ones, and what does the frequency look like of these types of programs, or is it you'll wait and see?
So I can't announce the cities yet because I'm one of those people, I have to lock down the venues and the dates.
All the details.
But I will tell you, if you're not in Denver, you're listening, you definitely want to stay tuned and follow Divine Sweat and or join the email list on the website, because my goal is really, I'm not in a space anymore where I want to do, weekly classes. I've been there, done that. I want to make it more of an event. And there's a lot of pre-work that goes into it. Not just from the physical, but from the spiritual standpoint. I really do start connecting with the energy of the women that are going to be there, even when they haven't even gotten their ticket. It's I can already feel them. I'm already making space for them, and already kind of really offering myself to be able to impact them. So I feel like it's limiting to just keep doing it in the same place like every 2 weeks. The vision is really more to make it like event based and travel. And I do plan to have a virtual membership of sorts down the line. In Denver, I'll probably try to do one a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's consistent enough that it's
consistent enough. Yeah, and have some like this Saturdays where it'll be a more intimate, smaller workshop. They don't all have to be like 300, 400, large events.
Right.
It's so nice sometimes to have that smaller group and everybody just really connects, and then they have community, they have tribe, they have support beyond the class.
Yeah, that they can continue to build that relationship on. So you've mentioned your website for announcements and subscriptions, stay alerted through your email, and then you've also mentioned your Instagram. So let's give them the specific details of how they can find you for Divine Sweat, but also for you personally, because I know that you're active on so many platforms. So let's share that with folks.
Sure. Salwa Owens is my name. I have to spell it. Okay. Salwa. It's like Salma, but with a W. And Owens, and that's like my name.
How often have
that's
you said
my
that?
name tagline. Literally, I've realized it works. So now I'm like Salwa, like Salma with a W. I really should put that on my brand.
That's so funny.
So find me on Instagram. That's probably the best place where I'm constantly updating. I do have a website, and the link to that is on Instagram. But if you're not on Instagram, salwaowens.com. It's currently being rebirthed, so I'm super excited because I'm launching finally. It's been 2 years in the making, but in the making energetically, not in the actual execution. Because I'm like, okay, what am I bringing? What's staying? What's coming to the forefront? Yeah, and so that's kind of exciting to finally get that launched. And Facebook, I'm on Facebook. Salwa Owens. I mean, believe it or not, Salwa Owens was available. No one has that name.
It's crazy to me. I can't.
Yeah. I thought about going back to Salwa Nahas, my maiden name, but then I'm like, oh, but there's so many Salwa Nahases, but Salwa Owens is there's one, and if you Google Salwa Owens, it's only me. No one else has that. I wonder why.
That's awesome, though.
I wonder why.
Claim it. And then I have been peppering you, I know, with just kind of random questions and hopping back and forth. Was there something that you were hoping to get out there that we did not touch on, or something that you would want our listeners or viewers to know more about?
Honestly, you did such a great job with questions. I will say one thing that I am available for that I would love to touch on is the one-on-one coaching, and I'm doing more of that, making more time for that, because I realize how much that really fills my cup, and it fills others' cup, and I kind of think I'm pretty good at it, to the point where I'm 2-3 sessions, you're out, you're done. And part of me is like, is this smart from a business standpoint? Or part of me is like, that's the goal. I don't want anybody to need me. I just want to touch your life enough that you can go on to your next phase. So yeah, that I would say, if anybody is listening and needs support in any way in their self-empowerment, or whether it be recovering from stillbirth or divorce, or just wanting to get your business off the ground, maybe a little bit of intuitive guiding, is this the right path, is it not, I am available. I got you.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing it and explaining a lot of what you do. I know an hour seems like a lot, but it's never enough to kind of go super deep into the conversation. So it was nice to touch briefly on all of these things that you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I can go deeper if you want.
Well, we've got a few minutes if there's anything else. Otherwise, I think we can wrap it up.
Yeah, no, I feel good. I think this is thank you. I got a little, I think there's a good snapshot of me, and now you know how to say my name, which is really good. Not you, you've known, but the world.
Everyone else, right? Now you know, and hopefully you can engage and connect with Salwa. She is doing some tremendous things, and I feel like I always stalk the work that you're doing, because you're doing so much amazing things.
Thank you.
And it's impactful, and that is to find someone that is not just self-serving, but is out there to empower other people. That is what our purpose is, I feel, right?
That's my soul
here to
fire.
kind of do good and be good. So with that, we will leave you guys with an additional few minutes to kind of go back to your afternoon. Please make sure that if you're watching this and we're no longer live, that you hit the reshare button so others in your network can see that we were live. Continue to follow and engage. We'll be back on here next Friday for 2 small businesses that we're featuring for Small Business Week. So exciting week ahead, and I can't wait to share them with you all. Of course, we're here on KUHS Denver, and we're wrapping up with Selma Owens. Hope you all have a terrific rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.
Yay!
I know, I feel like
it's not hot.
Right? Like, why isn't there confetti? Like, there needs.
Oh, like when you wrap,
right?
Or like a little, like that's a wrap
for this. Yeah, something big.
I know. I hear you.
That's so funny. So I will share. Like, we're no longer live. So my very first one here with him.
With him.
Yeah, with him. Get in here, and I'm like bitching with. Do you know Sylvia?
Walker. Yeah, Waller.
So,
I don't always want to say Walker.
I have her saved in my phone as
As
Walker.
Walker? Okay, I feel better. It's Waller. Because
It's-
Waller's like.
I know.
But Walker.
But I have
She
Walker
walks.
in my phone, and it is Walker, and I've like have known her for years, right?
Yeah.
And so like we get in here, and I was asking her about her national. Her and I served in 2020 together, so I was the miss, and she was my missus, right? And so I was like, "How's national?" Then we start complaining. Like she's like, "Here's what happened, like with the drama of this."
Oh, you
and
love.